So let's welcome our CIO, John. Hi, John. So John is CIO for a leading bank in this region. This bank is expanding regionally, and they want to open more banks in second, third tier cities of China, which means a lot of growth opportunities. And they also want to introduce innovative products and services in the market. And John really wants to partner with his CEO in the business transformation. I talked about the importance of speed, innovation yesterday, and John wants to drive that agenda. He wants to be in the driver's seat for the company and be a partner in the boardroom to do that. And his priorities are very similar to most of you, our customers here. You could perhaps relate to his business priorities, which are 24/7. That's a given that you always want to keep your business up and running 24/7. Anytime your business is down, you're losing your customers to your competitor, and we see a lot of cases that get publicized immediately when that happens. Time to market, again, speed. How fast can you get new products and services to the market, or even address new segments? You know, in emerging countries like India, China, it's about how do you go into the provinces, into the second, third tier cities fast enough? That's the biggest growth challenge. And then there is cost and operational efficiency, which continues to be very important. There's always pressure to do more with less. So how do you reduce the cost in you spend in running the operations and free up money for more innovation? And then scalability. Now, scalability is not just scaling up. It's also scaling down when you are going through a recession. We have all learned lessons from the recession that you should have an environment which can be scaled down so that you're still agile and you're not locking too much resources, underutilized resources in your environment. So how does John deliver on these priorities when he has a complex data center? Most data centers today, not just in the Asia region, but the whole world, are complex. The data center looks somewhat like this. The traditional IT approach of deploying single application on a single instance of server has really led to the server sprawl. And this environment has become very complex. There's a lot of cabling issues, manual processes. There are too many people involved, and there's power and cooling issues. When you look at the burden our friend is carrying here, how many of you can deal with this, can relate with this situation in the room? Do you have a similar burden you're carrying? There are a lot of you are saying yes, right? And there's a lot of cost in this environment. While it's over-provisioned, the issue is that the utilization rates are very low, which means there's high cost in the environment. And when you want to introduce a change in the environment, a new application, or change the instance of an application because there's a business priority and you need to deliver on it, a business process change, how do you do that in this environment? It takes forever to drive a change when things are so rigid and inflexible in the environment. It could take, several weeks to install a test and dev server, or it could take, almost 12 months to deploy a full SAP application. So these are the challenges that John is dealing with. And John wants to really move to a very service-oriented architecture, get rid of this complexity, and he's decided that he'll move to cloud. Coming to John. So let's look at the cloud architecture, how it can simplify this whole environment. So I talked about it yesterday a little bit, about the 5 components of the cloud architecture. What I'll try to do is illustrate it a bit and show you in action, and perhaps emphasize a few points again. So let's bring up the cloud environment. And again, this is an example of HP and Microsoft working together to really simplify the cloud environment and the 5 components which are key to the architecture of this environment. Now, converged infrastructure is really the first foundational step that you need to take to build that environment, cut the silos of discrete resources in your data center, server, storage, networking. How do you bring all of that together and integrate it? And Blades is a great technology to do that. How many of you are already on Blades? I think a lot of hands, almost more than 50% here. If you are not on Blades, I would strongly encourage you to look at the Blades platform. How do you drive that convergence of all these discrete resources? And convergence is happening in different industries. The mobile industry is a great example where the device that you use is for multiple users. It's not just for a voice call, it's for emails, it's for video, and so forth. And the network fabric becomes very important in that architecture to really break the silo between the storage connectivity and the LAN connectivity so your resources can be moved easily. And then you can virtualize this whole environment. Now, virtualization started with servers, but today customers are looking at how do you virtualize the data center. It's also about the storage, the networking. You're not truly converged unless you drive a data center level virtualization. And desktop virtualization becomes key as well. How do you secure the desktop data within this data center environment where when your user moves, the user space is moving, but they don't necessarily need to move with physical hardware. I talked about cloud maps. How do you take these reference architectures and create standard templates? And for a standard template, in this case, Microsoft Dynamics, you need more server, you need storage, you need the OS, and you need more networking, right? And you can customize your whole reference architecture published by HP and Microsoft for the key Microsoft applications as suited to your environment, and then publish it to your service catalog. And so this was a simple illustration of how you could create a Microsoft Dynamics cloud map and then publish to your service catalog. I talked about service catalog yesterday, and here's an illustration of the different applications you can create with a designer tool that we integrate with this cloud system architecture, and you can create the different applications and publish them. Let's take the example of Microsoft Dynamics here. When a user comes to this service portal and selects one of these applications, they can define the number of users, whether it's 1,000 users that they want to subscribe to. And also the lease period and the SLAs. And based on that, they can also see the cost of that service to the line of business. And that's very important to understand, for how long you use this service and what will be the cost. And eventually you can get to that model of pay-per-use internally and you're able to meter the usage and pay for what you use. Let's look at another example, and here it's the SAP example. And for an SAP application, you would need more storage capacity, more server capacity, and then perhaps the dollar cost is more, and that's why you see the more dollars there on this one. So now you have created the service catalog, and you can go and select. And again, if you are building a cloud marketplace, which you can publish externally, for instance, if you're a telco, then the same service catalog you can extend externally and start to integrate it with your billing chargeback and truly drive a cloud marketplace. Orchestration, I talked about orchestration as well. And here's my orchestrator. The role of the orchestration is really to provide an automated policy engine that orchestrates all the workflows, links the resources, does the provisioning, reprovisioning, release of resources, all based on automated workflows. The audit workflow, the compliance workflow, these are all examples that are orchestrated by this engine. And lastly, the provisioning and monitoring, which is invoked by the orchestration engine, and it's the provisioning of the server, the storage, the networking, the operating system, and the applications. And this does the continuous monitoring of the environment. And if there is an alert, again, the orchestration engine kicks in and does an automated policy-based action based on the nature of the alert. And this can be really extended to a heterogeneous environment that you may have. in your data center. And most organizations, I've been talking to CTOs or CIOs of governments, big governments in the region, and they talk about, in an environment where they have several states, every state has a data center. How do you, and that's all heterogeneous environment, how do you put all of that in a private cloud for the government? And cloud system is a great example of a platform. All you need is one of this platform in the front end to then use some of this software I talk about, the orchestration provisioning, to really drive everything virtualized and into the private cloud. So again, a good example from HP and Microsoft of an integrated solution that really simplifies the path to cloud. So you have a fast track to build a private cloud on-premise, or you can, if you are a telco, you could do a public cloud. And we see really good acceptance of this platform. We are seeing, a lot of banks that are looking at, shared services. To banks, it's not so much about cloud, but it's shared services architecture. And they're adopting this to develop that. So, this is really the most integrated cloud system on the planet Earth that you can really use to adopt cloud and go on that path. And the key thing is, what role do you want to play as the CIO in the organization? And we strongly ask you to look at how can you become the engine for business transformation? Either you are leading it, or you're supporting the business transformation that may already happen, and bring that speed and innovation, that agility in the business. So with that, I'll leave you, and I'll hand it back to David. Thank you.